You walk into a massive sports bar on a Sunday, right? And there's like 16 different screens perfectly synced to a dozen different games without a single hitch. Yeah. We just kind of take that synchronization for granted.
Oh, we totally do. But pulling that off actually requires some highly engineered infrastructure. So today we're analyzing the specs for the HDTV Supply WolfPack 4K 8x16 HDMI Matrix Switcher.
Right. And our mission here is to really decode the dense AV engineering that, actually powers these multi-screen venues.
Exactly.
So at its core, we are looking at a $4,400 chassis that routes 8 incoming 4K video feeds to 16 different output screens. And I think a lot of people might picture this as a traffic cop, like directing cars to different exits.
Yeah, that's a common way to think about it.
But that doesn't really capture what a matrix does. It's actually more like a high-tech printing press.
Yeah.
It takes one original document, say, the main feed of the Super Bowl, and instantly stamps perfect, identical copies out to 16 different distribution lines at the exact same millisecond.
I mean, that's a much more accurate way to look at the physics here. It's taking incredibly high bandwidth 4K data and distributing it simultaneously without any drop in quality across an 18 by 18 modular architecture.
But, okay, why spend over $4,000 on a hardwired KT6 matrix switch when, we live in a world of wireless casting? Like, couldn't a sports bar just run everything over a robust Wi-Fi network to a bunch of smart TVs?
Well, try running uncompressed 4K video to 16 screens over standard Wi-Fi and just watch your network collapse.
Really? It would just crash.
Oh, yeah. Standard IP networks break data into these messy packets, send them through routers, and then they have to reassemble them at the destination. And that inherently causes lag and packet loss. So the WolfPack actually avoids IP entirely for the video feed.
How so?
By using HD-based technology over CT6 Ethernet cable.
Wait, hold on. CT6 is literally network cable. Are you saying they take high-bandwidth 4K video and turn it into standard IT data to push it further?
Not quite, and that's the clever part. It's using the physical twisted pairs inside the CT6 cable, but it's not packetizing the data like a router would.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it sends a continuous uncompressed stream. So it effectively turns a cheap networking cable into a direct physical extension cord.
Which explains how they push that signal so far, right? Because sending uncompressed 4K data 110 feet or 1080p out to 220 feet requires a massive amount of bandwidth overhead that wireless protocols just can't guarantee.
Exactly. And the real metric to watch here is the latency. Since it's an uncompressed continuous stream, the delay is less than 7 microseconds.
7 microseconds, that is practically zero.
Basically, yeah.
Right.
And in a megachurch or a large auditorium, if your video feed is even a fraction of a second behind your live audio system, you get terrible lip sync issues. This structural design prevents that entirely.
Right, that makes total sense. And you mentioned the Super Bowl earlier. If you're managing a massive live event, a bad port on a switcher is just catastrophic. Looking at the chassis specs, they've chosen a highly modular setup with one-port slide-in cards to handle that risk.
It's a very specific engineering trade-off because using individual slide-in cards increases the upfront bulk and cost of the chassis compared to a single fixed board design.
Right.
But mathematically, it drastically reduces long-term maintenance overhead for commercial buyers. If one port burns out, you just swap that single card. You don't have to pull the entire switcher out of the rack and ship it back to the manufacturer.
Which would take all 16 screens offline.
Exactly. Nobody wants that.
Oh, wow, that's huge. And that same risk mitigation applies to the power system, too. A single venue power flicker usually reboots an AV system, and that can take agonizing minutes to come back online.
Yeah, you cannot have dead screens during a big play.
Right. But this unit uses dual redundant power supplies. So if one side experiences a voltage drop, the other instantly holds the load.
It essentially treats AV routing like mission-critical IT infrastructure, and you see that in the control interfaces as well. They've dropped the old infrared remotes entirely.
Good riddance.
For real. The system is managed via a 7-inch color touchscreen right on the unit, a web GUI, or mobile apps.
So really, the big insight hidden in these specs is that as consumer screens get cheaper and larger every year, the real cost and complexity of commercial AV has shifted almost entirely into this invisible plumbing behind the walls.
Absolutely. The displays are just the very tip of the iceberg. The switcher is the actual central nervous system doing all the heavy lifting to prevent chaos.
So the next time you walk into a perfectly synced multimedia space, take a look at those screens and ask yourself what other invisible high-tech systems are quietly orchestrating the seamless modern experiences you take for granted every day.